going to formally introduce myself. I'm Joe MacNeal. I'm a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist. I'm a volunteer with Penn State Master Watershed Stewards, and I run my own PHS Tree Tenders group. This property has largely been undeveloped, which makes it very special. And we'll talk about this as we kind of work our way over there, but this is a direct complement to Stoneleigh. And Stoneleigh does not have a woodland like we will see over there. And not only is the woodland, we'll walk through here, but there's also other corridors for wildlife to work through as we walk up and into the property, and we'll talk about that as well.
And wetlands.
And wetlands as we enter the property, yes. All right, hello again. So as we walked in, we did walk past, and I'm referencing a presentation I gave at the Lower Merion Township Environmental Advisory Commission meeting in October. So same talking points from that meeting that I'm going to talk about today. But as we walked in, we did, and we're still standing in, the wetland area of Oakwell. So we are connected to 3 different water bodies. One is right up by Villanova. So Harding's Run connects to the Delaware River watershed. We are also connected here to an unnamed tributary to Mill Creek and a tributary to Gulf Creek leading to the Schuylkill River watershed. And we're kind of at the headwaters here, so we're kind of at the beginning here. We're almost at a high point. So we're directly connected to the water quality of our local area here. The original idea was to remove 500 plus trees from here, starting right about here, okay, like pressing really quite close to the street, all the way through the entire property. So to really maximize the amount of fields. And I marked, I don't know if we'll walk over there, I did mark where home plate would have been for the softball field, and it was very close to over there. We are standing in a forest fragment. There aren't many forests left. So this is a native forest fragment. We see beech trees here. So beech is a dominant tree species, American beech. We also have tulip poplars. So these towering tulip poplars are around us. We also have red and white oaks in here. So, but the dominant trees are the beech and the tulip poplars here. As we go further into the property, it does become more like an arboretum, intentionally planted, and we will see a wide variety of tree species from around the world. But special to me are the native trees, including the native oaks, the white oaks, and the red oaks that we'll see, and they are just massive. But this is a native woodland. Most of these trees, including these young beeches, are just naturally regenerating from seed sources, which is fantastic. And again, we don't have anything like this at Stoneleigh. If you look at this from the satellite, it is a direct connection. We don't even have a roadway bisecting the area. It's a direct connection to Stoneleigh. And I do, briefly before we move on, I do want to talk about this being an ecological corridor. So in order for wildlife to continue to exist in this area, wildlife needs to be able to pass from one place to another. So we have increasingly fragmented areas. If you look at the satellite, you see lot, subdivision, subdivision, subdivision. But here we have connection. So this is a place where birds, for example, in migratory routes can stop and rest, okay? They can consume insects in the leaf litter, in the nooks and crannies of the trees. They have a wide variety of food sources here. And again, we have a native plant, kind of ecological garden right next door. Okay, perfect complement with each other. So this is a very important place. And as we move through the property, I'll talk more about the ecosystem services that the entire property provides.
How old are the trees? Any idea of age?
Yes, so I think some of the trees on the property are well over 200 years old. Most of the trees here are much younger than that, for sure, like 100, 120, 130 years old, which is younger. Most of Pennsylvania, I don't know if many of you, I think, are environmentally conscious. You may already be aware of this, but most of Pennsylvania was clear cut, and there are very few areas of old growth forest left. So this is a relatively young forest fragment, but still old, and these trees are not found in this configuration, in this quantity, in this density in many places left. So, but the trees that we're going to see further up, I think Bryce is thinking 250 years old,
exactly,
something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm not representing Lower Merion Township here today, but I do sit on the Shade Tree Commission. The township brought in an intern this summer from the University of Colorado. He was fantastic. As part of his kind of capstone project, his graduate project, he calculated tree canopy change in Lower Merion Township. And one thing that stood out, and something that we all knew and he didn't know, was one of his images of major loss of tree canopy in most recent years was the Black Rock Middle School site just around the corner, but too far to walk, have to bus here. So that site, I think, lost roughly 500 trees alone and is a bigger acreage than this particular site. So just a devastating loss when you combine, when you think about combining that property and this property. And again, great spots for fields, existing fields, parking lots, golf courses, places already developed, assembled, already developed properties assembled into one. But properties like that include the woodland here, that include these majestic oaks and other species, 70, 80 species overall in the arboretum-like setting. Not a great place for fields. So I did a tree canopy analysis of the 13.4 acres here, the two properties combined. Tree Canopy is a USDA Forest Service software program, and anyone can use it. I mapped 200 points in the data shape, which are the two properties. And I found that this entire site may not seem like it because most of the leaves had dropped, although a lot of the beech trees are holding on to their leaves as they do. We have 72% tree canopy and shrubs. I think that's conservative. It could be a little bit more. 14 tons of carbon are sequestered annually by the trees and shrubs on site. So the carbon is being held in the tissues of the trees to be released depending on if they're cut down and their use. 360 tons of carbon stored in existing trees. The site removes 785 pounds of air pollution annually. And the current state, the undeveloped, further developed state, includes thousands of gallons in hydrological benefits each year. Many of the trees here, in terms of the percentage populations, most of them are native trees. Many of them are oak trees. I think some folks have brought up Doug Talmy. I think I've heard this. Doug Talmy has made popular, thank goodness, the idea of growing native plants at home, particularly keystone species. So keystone species, at the top of them are oak trees, okay? We have many oak trees at Oakwell, and they're surrounding you. So these trees support over 500 species of Lepidoptera, butterflies, and moths, which Doug Talmy, I think, convincingly argues are perfect bird food. So little caterpillars for butterflies and moths are like little hot dogs for birds. And there's a lot of hot dog making machines around us for the bird population. So we also have beech as we came in, beech behind me. They're supporting 115 or so species of butterflies and moths. And these butterflies and moths, and that's just a sample, these butterflies and moths co-evolved with these trees, okay? So for some species, like we have, I think, a forsythia, a non-native forsythia hedge right here, the butterflies and moths can't consume the leaves of these like they can, so potentially 0 butterfly and moth species can feed off the forsythia here. And then we have 115 species feeding off the American beech behind us, and over 500 species feeding off the oaks. So you can see the tremendous amount of ecological and biodiversity services provided by so many of the trees on this site. And we do dozens and dozens of tree species, and many here are non-native. They're nice to look at, but we have so many of these massive oak trees providing so much for biodiversity in this area. And it's really very tough to replicate this in any time at all. These trees are hundreds of years old. And not only do they support birds, for example, through making those little hot dogs, but also there are insects that birds are eating all in the nooks and crannies of the bark of these huge trees. When you get to the younger trees, we have smoother bark, we have fewer areas where insects can live, we have less ability for those trees to be homes for a wide variety of insects to be consumed and to go on in the food web. We heard from Dr. Bennett, he sees fox, he sees a variety of, who knows, bobcats. But he talked about the web of life, and that's absolutely what we're talking about here. We're talking about the ecology of the site. This is a functioning ecological unit at this point. So we don't know what the future holds, however.
We don't. And did we mention our county champion tree, which in fact, you can't really see it from here. It's not this one, which is awfully big, but we have a county champion oak in back of this structure. That's a pretty recent discovery in the last couple months, just from our arborist looking at that.
So this site has been largely undiscovered, right? It's kind of like, who even knew this was going on here?
No.
But huge trees, I think they're on a PA, big trees.
There's 4 of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is run, I think that's the same website, run by the arborist at West Laurel Hill Cemetery. It's like his labor of love, his volunteer project, I think. But he runs that for the entire state, so that is really cool. And I do have to mention, I don't think I heard anyone talk about this yet, there's increasing protections for like heritage trees or trees of special significance in this region. Is anyone from Radnor? Oh, wow, okay, a lot. So Radnor has and good for you, it has a heritage tree protection, and that's fantastic, and I hope we get that in Lower Merion one day. We don't right now. So huge trees like what we see around us, these huge oak trees, can just simply be cut down without any legal protections. And we're not saying, I think Radnor is not saying, no one's saying that these trees can't be cut down for any reason, but there should be a good reason. They should be truly in decline. There's some prevailing public interest, something like that, because these are really irreplaceable trees. Many of these trees have been here for over 200 years because they've been protected by the property owners. Say we're at a crossroads in terms of the school district and plans moving forward. Hope for a sustainable outcome. The school district certainly could be a national model of what to do with a property like this, and be innovative in its use. So we are hopeful, we're thankful that it sounds like a large percentage of the woodland is no longer in peril. However, there are other parts of the property where there are questions, and we do hope that a body of students, of educators, of administrators, and individuals in the community can come together to find a path forward for the property.